So it's so nice to have you all here today. I think everyone who's here has been here already for at least one or more sessions. So it's so nice to have everyone coming together and starting to build this community. We're really happy to have you. And today I'm going to be sharing a breathwork session, and this is something I'm really excited about and I love to share, so I'm so happy to have you all here. And I'm just curious before we start, if anyone here has practiced breathwork before, you can raise your hand if you've practiced it. Okay, a couple people, maybe a couple people are unsure, what do I even mean when I'm asking you this? So I like to describe breathwork as, well, I describe it in many ways. Yesterday I was thinking, how will I describe it today? And I was thinking I'll describe it as a process of getting familiar with our souls. And I thought of this because for some of you may have come to the first session in the Tibetan Buddhist meditation on last week. The Buddhist teacher was saying that meditation is a process in getting familiar with our minds. And in Tibetan, the word for meditation means to get familiar with our minds. And my experience with breathwork is that it's taking us another layer deeper. We're not just observing the mind, but we're actually going deeper into what I would call our soul, into our deeper feelings, our emotions, our bodies, these deep fears and pains and longings and experience that kind of sum up who we are, what we want in life. And this process can really take us into that deep place of knowing ourselves. And then from that place of knowing ourselves, we can really love ourselves. And that's my experience with breathwork, and I'm really excited to share it with all of you. And I'm going to go more into the details of what this style of breathwork is, how do we do it, how does it work scientifically, and demonstrate the technique to you before we have the experience ourselves. But first, I just wanted to start with a very simple, short breathing practice just to calm ourselves. So for this one, oh, can everyone hear me okay, by the way? Can hear me? Yeah? Yeah. Okay. So for this one, we can just sit down. If you're comfortable sitting where you are, you can have your feet on the floor, or you can be sitting cross-legged, however you can make yourself comfortable. And just allow yourself to relax. You can maybe shake a little bit or take a deep sigh or a yawn, relax the body. And find your comfortable seat, and you can close down the eyes. Sitting up tall, let your shoulders relax down your back. And just take a moment to notice how you're feeling right now in this moment. Notice any sensations in your body. Notice any tension you may be holding. As you notice, you can maybe even rate how you're feeling on a scale of 1 to 10, of 1 being totally relaxed and 10 being completely stressed and tense. Just noting that number. And then we're going to start to do this breathing practice, and it's very simply just breathing in and out through the nose, inhaling for a count of 5 and exhaling for a count of 5. So you can begin, just inhale, 2, 3, 4, 5. Exhale, 2, 3, 4, 5. In, 2, 3, 4, 5. Out, 2, 3, 4, 5. And just continue breathing like this in and out through the nose. Inhaling for a count of 5. Exhaling for a count of 5. Let your breath go deep into your belly, feeling your belly rise with the inhale and fall with the exhale. Keep counting your breath, inhaling for 5, exhaling for 5. If your mind starts to wander, just come back to counting the breath. Good, and then you can allow your breath to flow naturally. Just take a moment to scan your body now. Notice how you're feeling now. Any sensations, any tensions that are present, or notice if anything has shifted. And you can use that number again on a scale of 1 to 10. 1 being totally relaxed, 10 being totally stressed. Notice how you're feeling right now. And then when you're ready, you can gently open your eyes. And as you're ready, come back to the group. Okay, so just wanted to get a sense of how did that feel for you? Did anyone notice any shift? Do you feel calmer after that breathing? You can type into the chat or speak.
I definitely feel calmer. I definitely feel calmer and like very like in an in-between state.
Cool. Yeah. So maybe, oh, go ahead, Helen.
Just, yeah, calming like breathing is, and also just lots of yawning and tearing, not crying, but just, anyways, lots of yawning, but I feel it was, yeah, relaxing.
Nice. Muscles feel lighter, feel calmer, 5 to an 8, feel warmer, calmer, lower frequency, calmer, definitely. Cool. So this was just 5 minutes. We just breathed like this for 5 minutes, and a very simple breath, inhaling for 5, exhaling for 5. This is a breath called the coherence breath, and there's actually studies done on this style of breathing. They had people do this breath for 5 minutes a day, 5 minutes at a time, 3 times a day, morning, middle of the day, evening, just breathing like this for 5 minutes. And after 2 weeks, they showed decreases in their cortisol levels, the stress hormone levels, increase in dopamine, serotonin, and oxytocin, these feel-good hormones. So yeah, if you didn't already, if you're not convinced just from feeling it yourself right now, there's also more science behind how just these simple breathing practices can really affect our physiology, our mental health, our mood. And it's so simple, and it can be a super short practice. You can use it anywhere, anytime. Our breath is always with us. It's totally free and it's totally natural, no side effects. So anytime you're feeling stressed, you can do this at work, and just develop a regular practice. I like to do this in the morning when I wake up and at night before I go to bed. And the more we practice this, the more it actually affects our nervous systems more long-term, to be more relaxed, and to, as if some of you joined Shelby's session on somatic therapy, to widen that window of tolerance so we can handle the stresses that we are facing in life and at work. So I love to share these simple, short practices. And now I also want to share this more deep practice, which I call conscious, or which is called conscious connected breathing. And I'm just going to share a little bit about what is conscious connected breathing, where does it come from, what is the history of it, what is the science behind how it works, and what are the benefits, and what can we experience, what have I experienced with it, and what can you experience with it today. So conscious, let me see if I can open my notes, because otherwise I can just talk about this for an hour and get super excited about it, and I want to make sure there's time for you to actually experience it as well. So conscious connected breathing. All right. So it's a practice of bringing awareness. Conscious breathing essentially is a practice of just bringing awareness and tension into our breath. Now I can't see you when I look at my notes. I'm just going to see you. Okay. It's just bringing awareness into our breath, conscious breathing, essentially. And this has been practiced throughout history. I mean, through yogic traditions, there's many forms of conscious breathing. And this specific style of breathing, conscious connected breathing, is a more recent practice from the 70s, essentially. There's one of the main leaders is Stan Grof, who created holotropic breathwork. He was a clinical psychiatrist doing psychedelic research to treat PTSD, anxiety, and depression. And because of changing laws, he started exploring, instead of using LSD, he started exploring using the breath to treat anxiety and PTSD and depression, and created this breathing pattern. Another major leader was Leonard Orr, who created rebirthing breathwork. And since then, there's been many different styles that have derived out of these. You have transformational breathwork, breath of bliss, biodynamic breath and trauma release, all of these. Originally, holotropic was one of the first, rebirthing another one of the first. And the style I studied was called Alchemy of Breath. But all of these styles of breath work, we're using the same technique, that's a conscious connected breath. And essentially all it is connecting the inhale to the exhale. So we're removing the pause between the inhale and the exhale. And when we do this, we're affecting our nervous systems, and we are altering our state of mind. We're altering our state of consciousness. And through this, we're able to have these deep experiences that I'll be explaining a little bit more in a second, what you can experience through this. So that's where conscious connected breathwork comes from. And so what does it do? It's, like I was just saying, it's shifting our physiology so we can explore these altered states of consciousness. And just a little bit about the science behind it. There's a theory called polyvagal theory, which some of you are probably familiar with. Maybe some of you not. So basically, essentially, the polyvagal theory is talking about our autonomic nervous system. And we have the sympathetic nervous system that is our fight and flight. That's the part that's activated when we're under stress. And then the parasympathetic, which is our rest and digest, when we are relaxed, and the autonomic nervous system is bringing balance between these two. And it's mostly regulated by the vagus nerve, which is this nerve running from the brain, innervating all of our major organs. And it's sending information in two directions, right? So the efferent information going from the brain to the body, and the afferent information going from the body to the brain. And what's really cool about this theory and why it's so relevant for breath work is that this theory says that 20% of the information goes from the brain to the body, and 80% of the information goes from the body to the brain. So our bodies are so powerful over our state of mind, over our state of being. Our breath is so powerful over our state of mind and our state of being. So we can try to talk ourselves into calming down, and it will only work about 20%, or we can use our bodies to calm ourselves down, and that will work 80%. This is how I like to explain this theory with relation to breath work. Also, with this style of breathing, the first breath practice we did was actually calming the nervous system. So for those of you, again, who saw Shelby's lecture, we talked about this window of tolerance. And when we're hyper aroused, we're in a state of stress, we need these calming practices, like these calming breaths, to bring us into this state of balance, into this window of tolerance. But sometimes through overlong exposure to stress, or through suppressing our emotions, or through whatever, we can actually enter this hypo-aroused state where we are depressed, we're numb, we're not motivated, we're not feeling anything really. And that's the state of hypoarousal, where we feel really stuck, depressed, burnt out, unable to experience pleasure, unable to be motivated to engage in life. And when we're in this hypoaroused state, it actually helps to activate our nervous system to unstick these emotions that are there, to open us up, to bring us back into that balance. So this style of breath work we'll be doing now is actually activating our nervous system, unsticking these things, opening us up. So that's what this style of breathing, that's how it works. We're activating the nervous system. That's how it works. So what will you experience with this style of breathing? Because we're unsticking a lot of these things, you can have a cathartic release, you can have an emotional release, you can, a lot of dark emotions, difficult emotions that you may have pushed down, sadness, anger, fear, shame, a lot of these things can come up when you breathe like this. And you can have an emotional release, you can cry, sometimes you can yell, sometimes your body wants to shake. Yeah, lots of stuff being brought up. And also there's some vasoconstriction going on because we're kind of going into a state of respiratory alkalosis. We're bringing in more oxygen, blowing off more CO2. So we have some vasoconstriction, which can cause some numbness and tingling in the fingers, a little bit of cramping sometimes, and some dizziness, but you'll be lying down, so that shouldn't affect you too much. So yeah, lots of emotions can come through, some physical sensations can come through. So you might be asking, why would I want to feel, that sounds terrible, why would I want to feel all of these like difficult emotions and pain and like discomfort physically and emotionally? So there's benefits. And one is the emotional detox, I like to call it. So if we don't feel pain, we also don't feel pleasure, right? And so when we're in this stuck state where we've really suppressed all of these difficult emotions, we can come to this place of kind of numbness. And yeah, and this can happen to us. I practice this style of breath work at least once a week, and I really find it kind of clears me out and lightens my energy or my mood. Because we're experiencing stresses every day, whether we're working in a stressful environment as nurses in a clinical stressful environment, or just through daily life, like in a personal relationship, maybe you feel rejected and then you feel some sadness that you push down, or maybe you say yes when you really meant no, and then you feel anger and resentment that you push down. These things are happening to us on a daily basis. These emotions are coming to us, and sometimes we're suppressing them. We have a tendency to suppress them. So by bringing them up, we're just cleaning this out. And I personally experienced that, sometimes before breath work, I can feel really like closed down and just kind of like shut down, like I don't want to interact with the world, and my body just feels contracted and I don't feel very motivated. And then I breathe like this and I feel totally open, and it's like the sky turned from gray to bright, and I all of a sudden have all this energy and motivation, and I want to interact with people, I want to do things. So it's really that just like relieves the weight from you and kind of opens you up. This emotional detox process. Another is a state of awareness. So this is what I was saying in the beginning. Around why I call breath work getting familiar with our souls. Right, so in meditation practice, we can observe our thoughts. We can get very familiar with the mind and observe our thoughts and see limiting beliefs that we have. Like, oh, like there's that thought again, I'm not good enough. And we can see it and we can watch it and we can learn to not identify with it. But there's only so far we can really go, or at least in my experience, only so far that I could really go by becoming familiar with my mind and becoming familiar with my thoughts. But then with breath work, it's like I went deeper to actually feel those feelings, and in that process to become familiar with the stuff that was dark inside of me. Before I started practicing breath work, I was kind of in a point in my life, I really suppressed a lot of feelings, and I was in a point where I wasn't very satisfied with my work. I was in a pretty unhealthy relationship. But if people asked me how I felt about that, I wouldn't have really known what to say. I didn't really know how I felt. I didn't really know what I wanted. And because of that, I just felt really lost and really empty. And this process of breath work really helps me to not be afraid of feeling the sadness and the anger. And I really loved what Rita said yesterday, that these emotions are our allies. And that's really what I found through breath work, that becoming familiar with this, it was like, oh, that anger was showing me like what I actually want out of a relationship. That sadness was actually showing me like the deepest longings of my soul, like what my dreams are for my life. So that's why I feel this is so important, to not just suppress the uncomfortable emotions, but to actually feel them, because they want to show us like who we are and what we want, and connect us to our soul. So that's what I mean when I say breathwork is a process and getting familiar with our souls. So it's bringing this awareness. And then the last step I would say is just transformation. As I was just mentioning, there's only so far I think we can get with observing our minds and our thoughts. And I think to actually change behaviors, to change, we really need to actually feel something. So we can think to ourselves like, oh, like that thought of I'm not good enough isn't true, like, and say mantras to ourselves, I'm good enough, I'm good enough, I'm smart enough, like all of these kinds of things, but it only goes so far to think those things, but to actually feel it can really transform. And for me, has really transformed my ability to engage with people, to create the relationships I want to have, because I've actually felt that I'm worthy of that, because I feel that I'm loved, that I'm lovable. And this is really what breathwork can do. So if you haven't experienced this may sound totally crazy, but that's that's what I'm experiencing. So it really like opens you to such a profound, deep self-love. So I'm super excited to share this with everyone today. And before we start, I'm just going to explain the process and demonstrate the technique. And then if you have any questions as well before we get started, we'll take some time for that. So the process, as I was saying in the beginning, is very simple. It's just connecting the inhale to the exhale, removing the pause between the inhale and the exhale. We usually breathe through one channel. The way I practice is breathing through the mouth. I find this to be a little bit more deep and profound than breathing through the nose. So I recommend breathing in and out through the mouth. And we're breathing deep breaths into the diaphragm, into the belly, letting the breath fill you and expand you completely. And then on the exhale, we just let the exhale go. So there's no need to control or to extend the exhale or to force it out. We just breathe a deep breath in, and then we just let it go. And then another deep breath in and let it go. So I'll show you how it looks, and then you can practice with me and ask any questions you may have. So it should look something like this. Okay, so you can practice with me. Okay, so that's it. How does it feel? Does anyone have any questions or any comments, any questions about the technique or anything I shared about the process?
How about some physical effects that you might feel during the practice? Can you go over that?
Yeah, so physically you might feel some dizziness. Patricia mentioned, Diana mentioned, yeah, you feel some dizziness. So we're actually going to practice lying down. So I'll have you come to lie down in just a moment. And then when you're lying down, you probably won't feel the dizziness so much. But you may feel some tingling or numbness in the hands and feet and the fingers, sometimes some cramping also in the hands. This is what I was explaining before. As we're bringing in more oxygen, blowing off CO2, we go through a little bit of respiratory alkalosis. There's some vasoconstriction. So that's what's causing these sensations. But it's totally normal and safe to feel these things. Some tingling. Yeah, maybe especially if you have another condition, it could also be related to that as well. But everyone can also experience this tingling. It's a normal part of this. You can be on the floor or the bed, the same, either's okay. I recommend not having like a big pillow under your head because you don't want to like close off the throat. You want to be able to have your airway fully open. So you can lie on the bed or on the floor on a yoga mat, either's fine. Whatever's comfortable. Any other questions?
Well, sometimes when I do this practice, I have cramping in my hands. That's a normal side effect.
Yes. Yeah, it's normal to have this cramping, tingling, or cramping in the hands. It's okay. Yeah, nothing to really do. Just notice it, breathing. For PMS symptoms, it could be helpful. I've noticed sometimes, yeah, that it can be helpful to kind of move the breath and energy to help some pain, some discomfort. It can be helpful. It's definitely safe. If there are some contraindications to this style of breathing, if you're pregnant or have epilepsy or schizophrenia or bipolar disease or severe anxiety or depression uncontrolled in this moment, it's recommended not to breathe like this. If you would like to breathe with us and you have one of those conditions, you can simply just breathe through your nose. Just breathe, just lie down breathing through your nose, just a relaxed breath, that's fine. Otherwise, it's safe for you to breathe this breath through the mouth, connected breathing. We will be practicing this we'll breathe like this through the mouth for about 20 minutes, and then we'll have about 10 minutes to just relax and breathe a normal breath and come back. So typically when we do this breath, we actually do it for an hour. So when you're doing this for an hour, you'll probably enter a much deeper state. Today, we may not go super deep, but that's okay, especially since many of us are new to this practice. It won't be too overwhelming, but you'll still most likely experience some sensations or possibly a little bit of emotional relief, even just doing this for 20, 30 minutes. So I will be playing some music to guide you and also be speaking to you. You may have a sensation that you kind of go into another place and you don't hear what I'm saying. If that happens, don't worry. I'm not saying anything that you need to hear. I'm just encouraging you in the process. All you need to know is just to breathe like we just did, in and out through the mouth. And if at any point it becomes too overwhelming for you, the physical sensations, or there's a lot of emotions coming up, you can just stop breathing through the mouth, start breathing through the nose. But just keep breathing, keep staying connected with your breath. Just breathe through the nose, and you'll calm down a little bit if it becomes too overwhelming. Okay, so that's everything. All you need to know, breathe in and out through the mouth. Just like this, okay, for about 20 minutes, and then I will be calling you to come back. So go ahead and make yourself comfortable lying down on a bed, on a yoga mat. Can everyone hear the music and hear my voice? Can you give me a thumbs up if you can hear? If you can hear the music? Can you hear my voice too? Yeah? Okay. Okay, good. Thank you. So just make yourself comfortable lying down. You can take some deep sighs before you begin the breath, maybe some yawns. Relax the body, feel the weight of your body sinking into the ground underneath you. take a moment to set an intention for your breath. Maybe there's something you'd like to welcome in. You can welcome it in with every inhale. Maybe there's something you'd like to release. You can let it go with every exhale. Good, that's it. Keep breathing deep, full, connected breaths. Connecting every inhale to every exhale. Connecting every exhale to every inhale. Letting the breath flow through you in one continuous rhythm, in and out, like the waves of the ocean. Every breath softening, opening a little bit more. You may feel to start taking your breath a little bit deeper, a little bit faster. Building the energy with every breath. You may be feeling a little dryness in your mouth or a little tingling in your hands and feet. That's normal. Keep staying connected to the breath. Come back to the breath. One breath at a time. Let the breath wash over you, let it flow through you. Connected breath. Breathing deep into your heart, into your belly, all the way down to your roots. Letting the breath fill every cell in your body. Expanding more and more into every breath. Coming to the peak now. You can take your breath a little bit deeper, a little bit faster. See how much more can you open this breath, how much more can you surrender to this experience. Breathing through whatever you're feeling right now. You're safe, you're loved, just as you are.
The power of love is here now. The power of now is here now. The power of you, me, is here to create magic on earth. The power of love is here now. The power of now is here now. The power of you and me is here to create magic on earth. Power of love is here now. Power of now is here now. Power of you and me is here to create magic on earth. Power of love is here now. Power of now is here now. Power of you and me is here to create magic on earth. Let the water wash away your tears. Let the fire burn away your fears. Let the wind blow into your life such faith and trust. Oh, let the earth hold you, take care of you, and nurture you. Oh, the power of love is here now. The power of now is here now. The power of you, me, is here to create magic on earth. The power of love is here now. The power of now is here now. The power of you, me, is here to create magic on earth. Power of love is here now. Power of now is here now. Power of you, me, is here to create magic on earth. Power of love is here now. Power of now is here now. Power of you, me, is here to create magic on earth. Let the water wash away your tears. Let the fire burn away your fears. Let the wind blow into your life such faith and trust. Oh, let the earth hold you, take care of you, nurture you. Power of now, power of you, is here to create magic. Power of love, power of now, power of you, is here to create magic.
You can start breathing naturally. Just allow your breath to flow through the nose. Allow yourself to rest. slowly start to come back. Take your time, take a nice stretch. Roll onto one side. Maybe you can gently open your eyes and start to look around the room. Slowly make your way up to sit. Welcome back, everyone. Thank you for going on this journey together. I just want to honor the time. I know it's late for some of you. It's 5 past the hour, so if some of you need to go to sleep or go on to other things, you're welcome to leave anytime. And for those who want to stay and share some of your experience, if you'd like to share or ask any questions, we'll just spend a few moments here together. And also take your time and honor yourself coming back. If you like to just rest, if you're not ready to speak yet, that's okay too.
Janelle, I have a question. This is
Yeah.
Kelly. Hello.
Hey, Kelly.
So this was my first, I've done a lot of pranayama, relatively. This was my first time doing this sort of breathing exercise, breath work. And I definitely felt like heat releasing like from my hips. But I also I found myself needing to sort of like back off. Like I definitely couldn't maintain that breath for the full 20 minutes. Or I decided to back off. And I felt like a lot of tingling around my mouth, which I know happens with hyperventilating. And we had talked about it before, like I expected those symptoms to happen. And so I'm kind of curious, and then I felt myself also within that kind of not wanting to breathe. Like I found like my reflex in my chest kind of like not really wanting to take the breath, like wanting to rest. And then within that, I could definitely feel my body in a floaty sort of space and could feel almost like that Kundalini feeling where I could feel sort of like my spine in this movement and was noticing these curves and maybe my imbalances and could feel potential. And so I was just curious because I want to experiment more on my own. And I knew I needed to come back to a group too. So I was probably also like, let me experiment a little. Do you ebb and flow like that? Or do you try to really maintain throughout it?
Yeah. Thanks, Kelly, for that question, for your experience. I can really resonate with everything you shared, especially when I first started doing breath work. It was really uncomfortable for me to breathe like this for a long period of time. Like your mouth gets really dry, like my chest felt tight and contracted. And I think psychologically, I just had a lot of resistance. Like I can't keep breathing like this for so long. And I still ebb and flow through all of those sensations and thoughts when I do this breathing practice. So yeah, I think just be aware of that. Just be gentle with yourself. If you feel you need to breathe through the nose for a while, that's okay. And yeah, the more we kind of can stay connected with the breath, I think is the most important thing, to keep that connection between the inhale and the exhale, to not have that pause. Even if it's a slower, gentler breath through the nose, it can still be really profound and really powerful. And then sometimes I breathe faster and deeper. But yeah, I would say my pace, my rhythm, my commitment to it ebbs and flows, similar to what you've described. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Thanks.
Yeah. And this was also like a shorter breathe. We did about 30 minutes. Typically with this breathing, I do for an hour, and then yeah, you can have kind of a deeper experience just from doing it longer as well.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I wanted to share with everyone, there are free online breathes with a group that I trained with. I'll put it in the email in the chat box. It's called Alchemy of Breath. Every Sunday, there's a free online breathe with them if you wanted to continue this practice with a group. I also do one-on-one sessions, and I think through this group, we'll be continuing hopefully to have more sessions. So if you'd like to continue with this, there's lots of options for that. So we'll share that with everyone. And also after this practice, it's really good, River already typed in there, to drink lots of water, to get really hydrated. Depending on what time it is there, you can eat a meal or just do something nourishing and grounding, as sometimes this is an activating process. Things can come up. We want to make sure we ground ourselves. So drinking lots of water, eating some food, maybe going for a walk, or just going to sleep if it's nighttime there, to integrate this experience. If emotions came up for you, that's really good to do those practices, or even just to write about some of the things that came up. I like to do that, to do some writing after this. And if anyone wants to talk to me privately as well, you can definitely reach out to me about anything. So thank you so much for exploring this. Rita says, powerful, like the ketamine therapy session. Yeah, I'm not verbal yet. Yeah, I totally get that. This can go really deep as psychedelic therapy. I definitely think there's a lot of similarities. And like I was saying in the beginning, the psychiatrist who was one of the founders of this was doing psychedelic research for anxiety and depression and PTSD when he created this breathing technique. So there's a lot of interesting overlap. And for people who are more interested in this as well, especially the science behind it, the psychiatry, neuropsychology, neuroanatomy, all of this stuff. I know some of you, Kelly and Rita, are really into this stuff, a lot of you. There's a book called Just Breathe. I'll also put that in the email. And yeah, it has a lot of really great resources of the science behind this practice. And also there's 21 different breathing practices in the book, so you can experiment with lots of different ones. All right, I'll just put that there. Oops. And I'll put all this in the email and on the website as well. Okay. Tingly and cold. Music brought some loving feelings. Good. Yeah. Okay. Thank you guys so much.
Okay, thank you so much, Janelle. Beautiful practice, beautiful music as well.
Thank you, Janelle. That was amazing.
Thank you.
Tomorrow I'll be doing, tomorrow's our last day and I'll be doing a Tibetan singing bowl sound healing session. So it's going to be super relaxing. You can also lay down and just receive the sounds and let the tension melt away. So really happy to see you guys today, and hopefully see you tomorrow. Thank you so much for being in this series with us.
Yay, that sounds awesome, Claudia. Happy to join. Bye, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you so
Bye.
much. Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Bye.